We're back, and we're breaking down the massive web of bureaucracy tasked with keeping America safe. The Washington Post is out with a new investigation detailing just what it takes to keep watch over all of us. Apparently, that includes technology designed for the battlefield in Iraq and Afghanistan now being used here at home. An FBI database chock full of personal info on, quote, suspicious citizens. We should mention you can be considered, quote, suspicious by doing something as simple as snapping a photo of your local ferry boat, and that they are keeping files on people who have never been charged and can be turned in by their neighbors who think they look suspicious. And they're also using self-described experts in Islam to train local law enforcement, some of whom have extremist leanings and no expertise in the field whatsoever. Joining us now with more is reporter behind the investigation, Dana Priest of the Washington Post. Dana, great to have you here. First, let me ask you, who are they keeping files on?
Well, there's about 160,000 files in the FBI's classified database, and they've put another 7,000 in an unclassified version of that can be seen and looked at by state and local government. These are files that do include many, many, many names of Americans or U.S. residents who have been charged with no crime and who they can't really determine whether what they did to get into the file amounts to a valid link to terrorism or not. So what they do is they let them sit there hoping that there'll be some other sort of information that comes along that helps investigators determine whether, no, that was actually an innocent picture that person was taking of a bridge, they were a tourist or whatever, or no, they weren't, because they were seen 3 other times in different cities taking pictures too. So now we really have to be concerned, and we're going to start actually an investigation of them. The vast majority of the people in these files sort of fall in the limbo, waiting for some kind of information to come along to clarify that initial suspicious activity report that was that filtered up from really the grassroots. So that's how it works. It comes up through a citizen, a local sheriff, a local police officer, goes into a state fusion center, which is something that the Department of Homeland Security helped fund. These are intelligence analysts who look at this information that they're being sent from people in their state. If they think it looks possibly a link to terrorism, they send it to the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. The FBI does have the lead in investigating terrorism in the United States. And then if they think it looks valid or potentially valid, they'll put it in this database for further scrutiny. You can get a pretty big file on yourself because, as we know, a lot of commercially available technology is scooping up all sorts of data about you, your social security number, all the phone numbers you've had, the places you've lived before, some of your financial problems. There's a lot that can be found out about you without any sort of criminal record.
So, you know, your neighbor could turn you in. Somebody could say, hey, I think this guy's suspicious, and then all of a sudden there's a file, and they fill it with all this extra information that they've got about you. How long does this file stay on there? And can actually also give us the example of the ferry boat that you have in the story in Southern California, because I think that gives people a decent idea of how you can get into this system.
Well, first of all, your neighbor could turn you in, so to speak, for being suspicious, but a local officer would then have to deal with that. And if there wasn't really something to be suspicious about, and it can't be just your ethnicity or the language you speak or anything like that, that has to be that can be the description of what you look like, but you can't be considered suspicious, for instance, if you're Muslim. So the description that I got a hold of one of these suspicious activity reports from L.A., and it was a police officer, law enforcement officer, who saw a man take a picture of the ferry boat in Newport Beach with his cell phone. And he went back to his car, sat in his car, went back out, took another picture, was joined by another man, took another picture, and then he was joined by an adult with 2 children, and they then got on the ferry and rowed across the channel. Now, what happened after that was the law enforcement person did find this suspicious. He then ran the tag from the license of the car that the man was sitting in, found no what they call derogatory information. He didn't have a criminal history or anything. So he nonetheless, not being able to rule it in or out, sent it to the next level, which is the Los Angeles Fusion Center that will look at this. And I could not get authorities because it's not classified, but it's law enforcement sensitive, and they wouldn't tell me what happened to it. But that is very typical, especially taking pictures, because that is a sign, perhaps, that you're interested in things you shouldn't be interested in, or because you're a photographer who likes to take pictures of interesting things. So that's
or you were going to go on a ferry and you wanted to remember it, you know. And look, in your story, you've got people suggesting that mosques should be looked into, but also human rights groups were looked into. Bikers, as in people who ride bicycles. Tea Party people were looked into. So, I mean, it looks like it's all of us. Is this what our government's supposed to be doing?
You know, no, not really. They're not supposed to be looking into what is called First Amendment protected speech. But what has happened is, in enlisting the local police have sometimes, and state police, gone and done really dumb things, like looked at, monitored, and put in their terrorism reports things about very peaceful groups that have absolutely no link to terrorism. So that has gotten them in trouble when we find out about it, and it's hard, you know, to find out about it because all this is not available to the public. So that is another issue in this, is how do we know that they're doing what they're supposed to do and not looking at groups like the ACLU.
Right, or the Tea Party people. I mean, it's outrageous. This country used to be called America. It's now, yeah, this is crazy. This is what East Germany used to do. But it's a great report, Dana, and we really appreciate you coming on the show to talk about it. And everybody should check it out. It's very instructive. Thank you for joining us.